David Waddington, and a few of you know me as that PhD student that seemed to be quite nocturnal. And PhD students haven't changed much since then. A quick note on housekeeping. We're not expecting any fire alarms. If there is a fire, there's 2 exits at the back, there's 2 exits at the front. A little word on the timetable. So we're kicking off, we're trying to stick to time here because, as you know, we have an engagement later. We're at 5 o'clock having the opening speeches now. 5:30 we'll have Tales from the Past panel chaired by Trevor. A bit of a break, 6:15. 6:30 Visions for the Future panel, and then 7:30 we are out of here because, as you know, we have a social at the Pint Pot. The band's due on at 8. They're doing 45 minutes, and then you'll get the opportunity to join in yourself. It'll become a bit of an open mic session. I'm imagining 90 minutes of a 12-bar bluesing sing. I will play, obviously. So, a round of applause, please, for our Deputy Vice-Chancellor to officially welcome you to this celebration of 60 years of acoustics at Salford.
You've not heard anything yet. Okay, so welcome. My formal duty really is just to say congratulations to the department on this 60th anniversary event. It's welcome to all of you as guests here this evening. We're having a great year of celebration. So as you've seen on the big building, we're celebrating at the university our 50th anniversary, and of course this is the 60th anniversary of acoustics. How does that work? Well, if you listen to Bob Marley, you might understand that if you knew your history, then you'd know where I'm coming from. So I'll try a little bit about that history then. So I'll try about 5 minutes to cover 100 plus years, so I'll do it as best I can. The University of Salford received its Royal Charter in 1967, so that maths is easy, that's 50 years ago. And our origins, however, stem right back to at least 1896, when the Pendleton Mechanics Institute and the Salford Working Men's College merged to become the Royal Technical Institute of Salford. Various splits, renamings, it's not new in higher education, and mergers, the Royal College of Advanced Technology became the University of Salford 50 years ago. In 1996, the University College Salford and the University of Salford finally merged into a single institution, exactly 100 years after the formation of the original Royal Technical Institute. So where does acoustics fit into that potted history? Well, the department's roots back in 1957, again nice easy maths for me, 60 years ago. A senior lecturer in the Department of Pure and Applied Physics at the newly formed College of Advanced Technology decided very wisely to concentrate his research on acoustics. And acoustic teaching has continued on physics courses here at the university since then. Despite reshuffles, restructures, acoustics has been a stalwart of this university. Research varies and has recently done blast noise for the Ministry of Defence, the sound of yarn twisting machinery, and Professor Cox devising ever more innovative ways to spotlight acoustics in the media, most recently demonstrating how an opera singer can break a glass with their voice as part of the Manchester Science Festival. So on this, your 60th anniversary, can I just state how proud the university is of this department. Over the past 60 years, the department has been a constant fixture of the university through many periods of change. And then we look to the next 10 years. I've been asked to talk about the next 10 years of challenge. The only thing that is certain is uncertainty. I don't like to predict very far. We live in an exponential and global world. Immediacy and interconnected events happen rapidly. An event in Korea can affect Wall Street in Manhattan very quickly. So if we look at this and think about technology and the rise of technology and the power of this compared to what we had just a few years ago, people here I'm sure are better placed than me, and you'll know the 30 steps analogy. So if we work in a linear world and a local world, I walk 30 steps and a metre a step. I walk 30 metres across this room, and that's how we've lived our lives for a long time, certainly my grandparents, and it's my generation. Think linearly. Technology gives us the power to expand that exponentially. If we take an exponential view, what does 30 steps get us? How far does 30 steps get us? I know you're out there, I'm here, you have a guess. It's quite a long, it's about billion metres, 26 times round the world. So actually when we think of the power exponentially of a connected digital world, then trying to predict 10 years hence and how we would integrate that and how science can utilise and work with that and how industry can work with that, it's a little bit hard to do. So, being wary of that, just think of a few immediate challenges that face the university in this department. There are some very obvious ones. We don't know what Brexit will bring, but for an internationally and globally connected university, that provides a challenge for us, for our students and our staff, not least our research funding. The ongoing debate about value for money in higher education and the emerging pressure on the sector to justify £9,000 tuition fees. But there are opportunities. The Research Council UK and its global challenges for research and innovation really presses for interdisciplinarity, something the university and this department is widely known for. We have decreasing public funding but increased industry funding into research, reflecting global change and seeing a greater increase of GDP spend from private industry going into research. The government's industry strategy, about to be published next week, will focus on specific sectors, but it perhaps overlooks the far-reaching benefits of areas like acoustics across multiple industries. And more locally, our Devolution Manchester agenda and the strategy around growth and place, the university is at the heart of that. That's why our strategy focuses for the next 10 years and beyond on our industrial collaboration zone strategy. This responds to the challenges facing the country, the higher education sector and industry, and it cuts across our traditional dividing lines facing into the industrial world. For those of you not familiar, Mike's going to tell you all about it in a moment or two, but just as a concept, we are making our boundaries more porous. We're trying to make the university more engaged with industry, allowing industry to come in, so that together we can generate ecosystems of industrial partners with the university at the heart of it. We can co-create together an understanding of the challenges facing a sector. We can then co-produce the solutions to address these, and very importantly for us, co-design the curricula and the placement opportunities to prepare the future workforce, our students and our graduates, to meet those challenges. Our students will have work placements, work on live briefs for industry, and how employers take them on as internships and through work placements. It's a 21st century vision of our heritage. But acoustics has been leading the way in that industry collaboration since its inception. In 1968, the Science Research Council questioned the university why Salford Acoustics had not requested any funding support. The answer was that we had more than enough funds coming through industry. And that's exactly what our industry collaboration zone strategy is about. It's not about reinventing the wheel. We've always done what we're doing now across teaching and research. And acoustics and the people here are testimony to that approach. This department, the people that have worked in it and continue to do so, the many students that have passed through its doors, you, our alumni community, have all played a pivotal role in the history of the University of Salford. And that history is reflected in our future challenges. Enjoy your evening. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Richard Stevenson. Next, telling us more about the ICZ, Mike Brown.
Thank you. I was simply going to turn around and say what he said, because it was very good. I'm relatively new. I only started on the 2nd of October, so it's week 7 in the Big Brother house for me. I've come from industry, so my view of academia was from an industry side. My job up until October was to work for a large company and engage with universities. And you will not believe the number of universities that say that they're doing industry collaboration. The number of PowerPoints and tours of universities I've been on, and they said, we're doing industry collaboration, is countless in various languages and in various temperatures. And they've all just been PowerPoint. When you've actually delved behind the PowerPoint and asked for demonstrations of what is industry collaboration, it's just been, oh, we do some research projects. And that isn't what the university now sees. What attracted me to the university and to make that very painful transition from industry to academia, and it is weird, I will tell you from my perspective, is the bold strategy of the ICZ agenda. It is actually trying to embed industry collaboration at the very beginning and take the PowerPoint and make it actually happen. Now, I'm a local lad. I live 9 miles down the East Line, it's just off Queen's Island, if anyone knows where that is. And I've driven past the University of Salford countless times. A lot slower now that they've put all that stuff down the present, but I've still driven past it. And I never knew what went on here. It was just a university. And what I'm pleased to say is when I first came here, I've been uncovering gems all the time. And one of the biggest and brightest is acoustics. Up until I'd been around, I'd never heard anything. In fact, the first reference I heard to acoustics was I was driving home listening to Radio 4, and there was something about some sound weapon being deployed in Cuba to make people sick in the American Embassy. And it says, and we're going to speak to Trevor Cox from the University of Salford. I'm like, I worked there, I was really impressed. You know, so I was then really excited to get a tour, and David and other people have shown me around the Acoustics Department, and it's awesome. And you don't have to have PowerPoint, because when I was there, you were doing industry research. There was guys building paneling to do industry research. It's the epitome of the ICZ agenda, and you've been doing it for years. It's just business as usual for you guys. The challenge that the ICZ strategy has, from my perspective, is we need to take that model that you've successfully been doing for years, not screw it up for you guys, because pointing a stick and trying to fix something that's not broken is a waste of time. But I want to apply that to the other areas of the university that are hidden gems as well, and bring this industry integration. And one of the hardest bits is going to be, in terms of that PowerPoint message, curriculum integration. So what we want to see is actually students learning about the latest and greatest technology from day one as part of the curriculum. There's a great video that I've used in the past, and it's called Shift Happens. Has anyone seen it? So it's on YouTube, and it's talking about this exponential growth that we're currently in. And they're saying that most students that start a degree, by the time they finish, the stuff that they were taught on day one will or could be out of date by the time they graduate, because technology is moving so fast. So by embedding the industry collaboration with commercial organisations into our actual very DNA, the courses and the structure like the acoustics research, that gives our students an advantage for when they go for a job. So rather than saying, hey, I've got a degree, I'm a genius, they could say, well, I'm a genius, but I've also worked on these projects and we've learned to use this technology from day one. So that's what the ICZ agenda is for me, and I'm going to look forward to working with some of these geniuses in acoustics, but also in the energy house and in robotics, and push the Industry 4.0 agenda forward. But I will always constantly be referencing acoustics. I was pleased to host a former colleague on a visit to the university, and we had a tour of the acoustics lab. And instead of having to point out and say, oh, by the way, they do industry stuff, there was people setting up this paneling, but there was some, I'll just talk about the helmets that were being tested there for acoustics, noise attenuation, look very military type, the helmets.
Yeah, but we'll have to shoot everybody out.
Okay, yeah. But I didn't have to turn around and say, oh, these guys do industry collaboration, because it was physically just there. So this senior executive he was from Siemens UK, he could see the fact that there's a pure example it wasn't staged, it wasn't PowerPoint, it was actually happening, and it was happening in acoustics. So my challenge is to take this model that you've been doing for so long, for in fact 60 years, to actually replicate that across the university, and then also help you guys to build relationships with other organisations and companies to widen it and get more and more industry collaboration into the hands of students. Thank you, and I wish you all the best for the future, and I hope to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Now, the Dean of School, Sunil Video.
First of all, many congratulations to the Acoustics Group. I'm a fortunate Dean to have such a fantastic and wonderful acoustics group within the school. I'd like to reflect on the journey that's taken place. And we've already heard the wonderful things that acoustics are doing. Getting there is a journey, and going forward is a journey. I was looking back to see if I had any materials going back 60 years. Unfortunately, I didn't. But I did find something that was in 1977, 40 years ago, 20 years after acoustics started. If you recall, this is the year we had the Queen's Jubilee. It's the year that James Callaghan was Prime Minister, and some of you will recall that Elvis Presley died in that year. This is the year when there were hardly any computers. In the university, people were walking around with punched cards. In the university, there were powerful, large groups of researchers in electrical engineering. The whole of the Maxwell building, most of the Maxwell building was electronic engineering. There was a tower block just opposite the Peel building, which was essentially a chemistry tower block. Chemistry was highly regarded. Today, that hardly exists. Chemistry is restarting at the university. In acoustics, I was able to find a brochure which described the acoustics programs in 1977. So I'm going to read those out to you so you can reflect on the progress that you've made in the 40 years. It starts off, Department of Applied Acoustics, Professor of Acoustics, Peter Lord. Student numbers in the 1977-78 year, 3 full-time postgraduate students. You did better than that with part-time. 8 part-time postgraduate students. And this is what the entry reads. I mean, in those days, obviously, because there were websites, you had the brochures which described each department, and if you flick through the departments, you can see the strengths and the areas that are weak. This is what the brochure reads. This is one of the very few university departments specialising in the subject of acoustics, and consists of 12 academic, technical and secretarial staff. Today, you have double that number, and that's really a credit to all the work that's gone on by all the people leading up to today, not just those that are currently here, but the history in acoustics is brilliant, because you have good mentoring, you have fantastic vision, you don't stick with the same subject area, you look to apply it, broaden it, and develop it going forward, not just for acoustics, but for the region and for the country. And that's why the numbers have doubled. The laboratories are located on the edge of the university campus, next to the new computer building. So that was great. My background is computer science. Computing science was starting then at Salford in '77. The specialist facilities include a reverberant room and a transmission suite built to international standards, an anechoic room, and a thermal test rig large enough to test complete walls and roofs. So you have that today in the Newton building, and I hope that we're going to have more than that in the new Newton building, whatever we call it, that's going to be built at the side of this particular building going forward. Financial support to create these facilities was provided by Turner & Newell Limited, Pilkington Brothers, Ferranta Limited, and the Science Research Council, precursors of course to EPSRC. These and other organisations, notably Shell Chemicals Limited, ICI Limited, Associate Lead, and the Department of Environment and the EEC have sponsored research, the department's research. In terms of research areas, this will be interesting because this is a test of whether you're still doing just the same research or whether you've moved on. Okay? We've heard how fast the world changes. Let's just see if we've moved on. The research areas include vibration studies, building acoustics, and environmental acoustics. So if you saw outside the wonderful demos that Ben Shirley and colleagues were doing, that would not fit under those categories. In terms of student numbers, going forward, Acoustics has started to work with our music departments that are based in New Adelphi building. There's a wonderful new program of music production and sound science that is due to start in a couple of years. We've got some wonderful new MSCs. At the time, 40 years ago, there was just one program. It was called an MSc in Industrial Acoustics. Interestingly, we don't have that now. We have Environmental Acoustics, we have an MSc in Audio, but not an Industrial Acoustics. That's something maybe we can think about. So looking forward, I think the progress that's been made in the last 40 years is significant. If the same progress is made in the next 40 years, we'll be in a different space altogether. Acoustics is already internationally known. It's already making a massive difference. It's already got a significant number of staff. I guess it must be the world's largest acoustic department. Can't be far off being the world's largest acoustic department. Surely in Europe it must be one of the best and one of the largest. The PhD stream is brilliant. We've got a wonderful group of new staff, young staff, as well as those who can take them on forward. Many congratulations, and I hope the success continues going forward. Thank you.
Next we have our Associate Dean of Research and Innovation, Davison.
I'm the last one, so I'm going to summarize everything very quickly. I welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to the 60th anniversary celebration of acoustics at Salford. Undoubtedly, acoustics has been one of the cornerstones of the university and community of Salford at large. In this intertwined, advanced technological world, we at Salford and at our School of CSE need a multifaceted approach to our innovation, research and commercial activities with alignment to ICZ. Acoustics has also been pinnacle to this transformation, in which in 2015 the 6 internationally known research centres, engineering, robotics, physics, space, informatics and acoustics combined to one research centre, is now called Salford Innovation Research Centre, SEP. This created our ethos in innovation, research and enterprise without any boundaries or barriers. Acoustics, the science of sound, somebody told me, he was Lamb, as always, supports and contributes to all strands of our curriculum, innovation, research at the school in terms of noise, audio and vibration into such as robotics, automotive, engineering, informatics and space. I actually worked on space with Trevor Cox. He doesn't remember it. On behalf of all colleagues, once again, congratulate all the scientists and engineers in Acoustics Group, past and present, for their achievements over the past 60 years, and wishing you all success in the future. Thank you.
Two more. Representing the Institute of Acoustics, we have Vicky Stewart.
Hello everyone. So my name's Vicky. I graduated from Salford in 2003. I wrote 2004. It was only when I spoke to Derek, I was at uni, and I realised I got the date wrong, so sorry about that. So although I certainly have some very fond memories of being at Salford, I'm here to represent the Institute of Acoustics because I'm a member of the Institute of Acoustics Council. The Institute has had a long and healthy relationship with Salford. Peter Lord, who founded this department, was our 4th president in 1978. Following that, Peter Wheeler was president in 1992, Jeff Kerry in 2002, and Trevor Cox in 2010. Plus, let's not forget that a large proportion, sorry, thank you Salford, plus let's not forget that a large proportion of our members are, have studied in some way or another at Salford. So to quote a Beach Boys song that's almost as old as this department, Salford, God only knows what I would do without you. Congratulations Salford, here's to the next 60 years.
Our final speaker in this session, representing the Association of Noise Consultants, Jack Harvey-Clark.
Thank you, David. Yeah, so the ANC, most people think of not the Association of Noise Consultants, but it is the Association of Noise Consultants. We're 1 year older than the Institute of Acoustics. And about 950 members of the Institute of Acoustics work for companies who are members of the Association of Noise Consultants. So we are part of the same thing. That represents about a third of all acousticians in the country. So what our members are companies who provide consultancy services. Most consultancy services are around the built environment. So that means we're providing advice on the acoustic aspects of roads, railways, and buildings such as factories, offices, shops and homes. So what we do is enable collaboration between professionals who might be competing, who are competing in other contexts. But we allow professionals working in this area to come together to help improve acoustic standards. So we promote high standards and good practice in acoustics. We write our own good practice guides where there isn't enough guidance in the industry. And we contribute to British and international standards. We help society benefit from advances in acoustics which improve health and well-being. So we, when places like this improve understanding of the effects of ground-borne vibration on people, we're the people who go and put that into practice and make sure homes are protected. We help people design offices that are better so that people can reduce destruction and improve work efficiency. Most of all, we provide exciting, challenging and varied careers. No 2 days are the same in consultancy because every project is different. We're providing a very little bit of advice on a big project, often or sometimes a small project, so that we always have to understand how other people see buildings, the built environment in the world and work with them to try and make those things as acoustically as good as they can be. So thank you Salford for providing the education to the people that we need to do our job and the research that we use to do our jobs.
Thank you all very much. It's time for you to vacate these seats because we're moving on to the first of our panel sessions, which is called Tales from the Past, which will be chosen by Trevor Cox. I'd like to invite up here Jeff Carey, Adam Thomas, Paul Darlington, Tony Clayton, and Professor Lamb. And now I'm turning you over to Trevor Cox and it's work around the box.
Okay, so we've got a couple of panels this afternoon. They're quite informal, but someone also wanted me to point out that if you want to go across to the Newton building, I know some of you have already been there, we've got some demo, wavefield synthesis demo there and a tour around the facilities as well. If people are interested, just ask at the desk. And they'll be going on during the day as well. So we thought a bit of nostalgia would be a good way of looking back over the last few years. And actually one of the panel members unfortunately withdrew at the last minute, but she wrote something really nice and I thought I'd read it out to you. So this is Anne Carey, who's now called Anne Budd. And I don't know how many acoustic marriages have we had out of the department, because that is one. So Anne Carey married Phil Budd. And she wrote, unfortunately there's been a family bereavement, which is the reason she can't be here today. So the 90s as a student, Anne wrote, I came to Salford at age 16 for a week in the Easter holidays as part of a women engineering event. I was the only attendee to pit acoustics as the engineering field I was interested in, and what a choice I made. I was welcomed by senior staff, given a tour of the facilities, an experiment to complete, and left to it. It was an amazing experience. I was so lucky to have which got me hooked on acoustics and saw me back full-time in the 1996 on the BEng Electroacoustics. So which member of senior staff was responsible? I'm looking for ones who are around here, for various retired members of staff. What I loved about my degree was the dedication and continued interest of the staff in their subject, and their enthusiasm to engage and encourage us as students to dig deeper too. This wasn't just a degree, this was acoustics, an amazing and varied industry in which we could all get involved. Having the opportunity to work abroad as part of the degree was something which really changed me. Salford has amazing international contacts, and it showed me the international community of acousticians was out there and always on the lookout for a good Salford student to join them. Just thought it was a nice kind of summary from around. Okay, so I thought we might start with that, but we're going to start back in the future, or back in the past, sorry, should I say, with, back to the future or something like that, with Jeff Kerry, who's going to give us a kind of potted history of the past.
I'm going to try, yes, and add something to the talk about the Institute of Acoustics, because the current president is in fact an ex-student, Joe Webb. So we're still producing. There's a chance for you all, those who are members. Right, well, I'm going to read this because I was given 5 minutes to get 60 years in, and I thought you might like some pictures as well. I've now been given an extra 2 minutes, so I've already gone off piece, but still, never mind.
So you can see what's...
Right. Some of it you've already learned. Peter Lord arrived at the newly announced College of Advanced Technology. Nobody had mentioned that in 1957. The Royal Technical College became one of the first colleges of advanced technology. And Peter arrived here answering a call for physics lecturers. He was a physics graduate of Manchester, and he'd worked in the aerospace and engineering industries, but also as a part-time lecturer. Appointed as a senior lecturer in pure and applied physics, he set about establishing a team carrying out research in an area considered at that time as the Cinderella of physics, namely acoustics. In his words, he could then shine like a bright light in a dark tunnel, and he really did. His first research students took up residence. I'll just get these moving on, actually. His first, that's 1973, by the way, a picture of the campus, which tends to bring things together. His first research students took up residence in a lab in the far end of Maxwell. But by 1959, they built their first test facility, a semi-anechoic room in the basement of 48 present part of Dual House. And there is a picture of that insertion loss rig. Peter had joined the acoustics group of the Physical Society, but along with many others was not happy with the way in which it was run, and it was very London-centric. It was biased towards traditional classical acoustics and shied away from noise-related research. So in 1963, he had to set up the Society of Acoustic Technology, and the Secretariat was based here in Salford. That became the British Acoustical Society, and of course, you know, 1 year after the noise people started, it became the Institute of Acoustics. So Peter was influential in starting that institute going. Back to that slide, give you a better chance to see it. He made many contacts through that activity, including Alistair Pilkington, inventor of float glass, who part-funded the first full-scale transmission suite, located in the old bleaching and dye works down in Meadow Road. Transmission suite became operational in -- and was followed in '68, as you've heard, by funds from the Science Research Council. And I have some pictures there of the facilities in Meadow Road, including the bomb damaged the front of the building, because a bomb was dropped on the houses just opposite during the war. He made, in 1972, there was a change of chair in physics,
at that time, of course, all this was done under the auspices of the Department of Pure and Applied Physics. In 1972, there was a change of chair. He took exception to this very commercially orientated bunch of acousticians and decided that they could earn their own keep, and he withheld internal funds. He also fell out with Dr. Audrey Stoops. She was the senior women tutor at the time and an expert in thermal conductivity. But Peter Lord, at his suggestion, she was allowed to join the acousticians down in Meadow Road. Just in time, of course, for the 1973 oil crisis and all the work that actually came into that thermal test lab after that, looking at the properties of various insulation materials, hence the connection with the thermal lab that still exists today. Peter Lord had the habit of ignoring all but the most important memoranda, and this sparked a silly row about mail delivery. In 1975, learning that Acoustics had its mail delivered directly by the porter, well, you would, wouldn't you, really? The Chair of Physics decided to install pigeonholes and had them fitted to Peter Lord's rather smart pine, tongue and groove clad experimental office, part of some work he had done for Littlewoods, the mail order people. Peter hit the roof and went to see the new Vice-Chancellor, who suggested the way forward was for acoustics to become a separate department with its own electroacoustics degree course. Though little help from our friends in electrical engineering, but not physics, who held on to the acoustics teaching equipment, the first graduates were enrolled in '76, and an MSc started a couple of years later. Following the severe cuts in 1982, we did fear for the future of acoustics here at Salford. But it turned out that we were the only department to survive completely intact. Not only did we put in what was considered the best practical business plan, but we also agreed to fund an academic member of staff from commercial income. And I think that actually did the trick. Initially, it was said that there were insufficient, but old buildings, including Meadow Road, had to go. And with a contraction in the size of civil engineering, there was space for us in the Brindley building. Initially, it was said that there was insufficient funds to rebuild the test facilities, but the written persuasion they were found, and an application to the University Grants Committee found some more to help keep things running whilst the move was made. And the result was the suite of rooms that you can see there. The amalgamation with the college in 1996 resulted in an expansion of the audio activities, and again in 1998 we were joined with electrical engineering to become the Department of Acoustics and Electronic Engineering. In 2002 we just had time to take advantage of a grant from the European Development Fund to set up an acoustics calibration laboratory, when the news came that the Meadow Road civil site was to close. Again, funds fell well short of what was needed to maintain the high-quality test facilities and studios, and with it Salford's reputation in this field. Once more into the breach came a knight in shining armour in the form of PVC enterprise James Powell, who persuaded the Higher Education Fund to hand over £2.2 million to build the test facilities in Newton. That was after Professor Lamb and I had prepared a suitably worded submission. It was well worth it, and you can actually see the results in Newton today. But I will end up by saying £2.2 million was actually more like £3 million. In a couple of years' time, it's going to be more like £4 million. I think we'd better start saving now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. You just surprised me by staying to time. I thought I had ages to get my next comment. Anyway, thank you very much. So moving on, I thought we've got various people on here, and I thought we might go to Paul Darlington next, who actually was here doing a guest lecture only last Wednesday. But for us who have been here a bit longer, it's an ex-member of staff from many years ago. You can tell us a bit about his past.
Yeah, can do.
Do you want to do it on this mic rather than?
That would be easy. Thank you, Trevor. When I arrived here in 1990, Peter Lord said to me, amongst the other things I was originally intending to lecture upon, he said, would you like to teach musical acoustics? And I thought, He said, I normally chat to them about violins. And I thought, well, I perhaps ought to do rather more than that, not least because I don't know very much about violins. And so I startled and entertained students by singing at them examples of musical intervals in the course of explaining to them the construction of scales. And in return, they entertained me in various ways. Most memorably, two of them brought in musical instruments upon which to play their rendition of a piece of music which was used at the time as the theme tune for the BBC's coverage of snooker. Snooker seemed to be on the television all the time in those days. I've learned subsequently that that piece of music, which is a wonderful instrumental piece which you can find on YouTube, is called Drag Racer. Find it on YouTube. As I say, it was originally composed and recorded by an august ensemble called the Douglas Wood Band. Happy days. Music within Salford Acoustics. Some of you may have seen historical drama over the last few weeks about the gunpowder plot. And the older members of gathering here will remember plotting going on in the 1990s where conspirators, including Peter Wheeler, myself, some of the people gathered here, and some other people, including people from University College Salford as it was then, were playing with this dangerous idea of introducing what we now call modules and whole degree programs on the subject of audio. Sounds innocuous when you talk about it now, but it was literally a dangerous idea back then, which could have exploded in our faces, but joyfully it didn't blow us to pieces. Rather, as you see today, it had rather the opposite effect. Audio within Salford Acoustics. And back in the day when I was doing my undergraduate studies, which I did at that other place which you may have heard of on the south coast, there was a described distinction between the acoustics as taught down there and the acoustics as it came to be taught up here, whereby the acoustics with the northern flavour had much more electronics within it, partly because of the Electronics Department up here, but also I think partly because of a personal friendship between Peter Lord and Per Brawl. And that foundation was something that I was glad to pick up on when I came here and work on the project of building the link between electronics and acoustics, work that you've all shared in and other members of our family throughout the world have shared in over time. I'm particularly pleased about the association between Darlington and electronics within Salford Acoustics. I'm not being arrogant because I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about the inimitable Roger. Electronics within Salford Acoustics. Thank you very much, Trevor.
So moving a bit further forward, we have Tony Clayton here, who, when did you...
About 2007.
2007, so really recent.
It is quite recent.
From the involving age.
I'm old, but... yeah, I'm Tony Clayton. I work for the Environment Agency as the Senior Advisor now. So really, two members of my family now, sort of, their careers are due to Salford University. My son's an acoustician as well. I'm sort of the Obi-Wan Kenobi of acoustics, which is working the good side. And my son, he's probably Darth Vader, he's an acoustic consultant, so he's the one we use the battling in. So. I remember the first day starting at Salford and coming across the gentleman over here, Mr. Waddington, David Waddington. I call David Waddington, but he wasn't doctor then, but obviously professor now.
I've told you,
David Boy. Well, I didn't want to say that in public, but he says it's David Boy. Every time he rings me up, he calls it it's David Boy. I remember that first day, and the first time we sort of introduced ourselves, what we all did, and we're all there, we're all local authority, environment agency, whatever. And there's one guy in the class, he'd paid for himself, he got there, he turned up to the first class and he said, oh, I'm unemployed, I want to do acoustics or whatever. David goes away, he says nothing. He comes back the next day, he hands him a bit of paper, he says, give that guy a call. So, says nothing more, goes away. Next week, he comes in, he says to him, did you go again? He said, yeah. He said, how'd it go? He said, I started on Monday. So David, his first interaction with one of the students was actually to get him a job, you know, which is going above and beyond really, you know, so that's really good. Couple of sort of things. Like I said, both myself and my eldest son did acoustics here, and I got the diploma. Now, some people I know in the audience know so. One day he said to his mum, he just graduated, and he said, what my dad's done quite good. He's got the diploma. He said, I've got an honours degree in acoustics, it's much better, he said. So I told David, and he said, just wait, he'll be ringing you up. Because obviously I've been doing noise practically. Oh, that's better. I've been doing noise since shout anyway.
Put a stop away from your mouth.
Yeah, the acoustics are quite good in this room. If they're not, we can get some help.
I usually make myself heard. So it basically said, you know, it's much better, but then again, David said, just wait a few weeks. And like I said, I've been doing acoustics since 1987 on a practical basis, even though my theory was catching up with it. Sure enough, within about 6 weeks, he was on the phone saying, Dad, I've got this problem, what do I do? So David was right. So what it's done, obviously, like I say, there's two members of the family now working in the acoustics business because of Salford University. My first degree is in chemical engineering, but I feel my association with the Salford University and the Acoustics Department is far better. I did my degree in chemical engineering and then passed away and whatever, but here, you bring them up, they've got a problem, do whatever, you keep an association with them. And that's been sort of really, really good thing to do. And the thing that's opened up for me is that qualification and the study here and the things that was ingrained in me by David Waddington and Andy and Francis at the time. You know, the thoroughness of doing the job properly and doing it on a scientific basis and looking at all the problems, then deciding when you've got all the information. It's opened up most interesting job ever. And now the senior advisor for the Environment Agency. I'm getting to do things like go into the DEFRA, into government policy, helped out with noise policy of State of England, if anybody's read that, well, I helped out on that. I'm on the BSI committees there with Philip there, you know, hopefully I contribute to that in a way that's helpful.
Definitely.
It's opened up the most wonderful thing. I've had to change career midlife at about, what age would it be? About 45, something like that. So it's not often you get to change career at that age, and it's been absolutely wonderful. One little funny story. Is Francis here? No, Francis is not. Oh, Francis. But I will talk about you anyway. Like I say, I was a chemical engineer in industry, and it's a bit riskier business than having a bit doing lecturing. I'm not decrying it or whatever, but I've been had doses of phosgene where I've actually been sick with it, spewing up and whatever. Now we had an incident one day in Francis, I'm sure remembers it. He's lecturing away. The overhead projector was on the wall, and it fell off the wall right behind Francis, didn't it? About that far. Yeah. Now, I was trying my best not to laugh because it didn't hit him, so it was okay. But his response was really from somebody that's been in industry with all sorts of things going around him. He was like a smaller version of John Cleese. If he could have found a tree branch, I think he would have hit that thing. Went outside and he got the caretaker to come and have a look at it. So that's basically a bit of my time.
Thank you very much. So you can see we've got a general progression in time, then that will end in a moment. But it's a great pleasure to have Adam Thomas here, who is now near enough in I can actually remember teaching Adam, so there we go. Yeah. Things get hazy as you go further back in time. Adam is currently working across an Alps in Manchester. Are you going to risk using the microphone? If you hold it a bit further away, you should be okay.
Yes, thanks very much, and thanks for David for inviting me. I got an email saying, would you like to come and join the panel? And then 10 minutes later, I was sent a separate email saying, thanks for agreeing, you can park your car here, etc. So cheers, David. So yeah, I'm relatively new in terms of leaving Salford, because I graduated from the Audio Acoustics course in 2012. But I'd heard of Salford about a decade before that, actually, when I finished my first degree in another university, and my final project, it wasn't an acoustics course, by the way, but my final project was involved with electroacoustics and about loudspeaker design, and they didn't really have anyone to sort of manage me on that project. So it was then that I actually decided I wanted to come to Salford. It just took about 10 years because I joined a band and etc. I then had to go and study maths for quite a long time before I could get my place here. But Salford was a great place to study, actually, and I got some really good support and really good advice from the lecturers here. And it's changed even in that 5 years, I think. You're taking on new technologies and using them in different ways, which is all very good and very positive. One slight negative change, in my time in Salford, most of the time I spent in the library and then a little bit of time in the pub. And unfortunately, I hear the Crescent has actually shut now. So, one negative against the other. Thanks very much. Okay.
I thought we were going to avoid mentioning the Crescent because it's just too painful to raise the issue that if we can no longer go and drink in those hallowed grounds. I did actually suggest for today we should all go to the car park outside and take a tinny along and have a drink in the car park. But there we go, no one took me up on that. Good job given how it's raining outside. So finally, we've gone forward in time. We're going to go back again to, actually, for those who don't know, you was actually my second PhD supervisor. I saw off my first one, but then you came along and became my second supervisor. And hugely indebted to him for my time here at Salford. And he was a hard taskmaster, I can tell you, as a PhD supervisor. But actually, I think it was rather good for me because it rather contrasted with my first supervisor. And well, I don't know if you're going to be rude about me. I've just been rude about you, but here's your chance.
No, I've become soft now. No more hard. Well, okay. I'm the last dinosaur in this department, because most of them are either retired or moved to a much happier sort of surrounding. But okay, not quite happy. I actually sort of is coming up to 30 years. I joined the university and joined this department in 1988, and it was quite interesting. I think Richard and Jeff already mentioned the time over there, but to me, apart from the fact that at that time we were doing a lot of commercial testing, a lot of commercial incomes and whatever, the thing that actually remained in my mind most is the wine and cheese party. Peter Lord, our sort of first founder, department head, is, I actually, when I saw the picture of him doing work, I was really surprised. Because he is, to me, it's more like a deal maker. He's really good at making deals and sort of making connections with industry and getting people to actually give money to him and to the department. And I remember, so whenever we have a departmental meeting, we always have cheese and wine. Nowadays, we don't have that anymore. And when we have an external visitor coming to visit us, they always take us to this most expensive sort of restaurant somewhere in Manchester, never heard of. Those are the good times. Unfortunately, we don't have that anymore in the university. Sort of, we are now all under sort of strict control. But in a sense, I mean, when I sort of after my sort of first thing, I suppose, sort of in the university, when we moved in the 90s. And I do have to change sort of my subject. When I first came here, Peter got a sponsorship from Ferranti for my lectureship, so I was working in underwater acoustics. But then after that, Ferranti gone bust. And so I have to change subject, and so I moved into room acoustics. That's the reason why I took over sort of supervising sort of Trevor. And to be fair, at that time, I think I'm learning room acoustics as much as he is. Both of us are actually doing the same research. I'm just not telling you. And so to me, the 90s sort of is really an era of change. Not only myself changing subject or whatever, but the whole university sector, as particularly with Salford and with acoustics, is all in a state of change. And remember that 1992 is the first proper research assessment exercise coming in. And I remember that time the first submission that we submitted to was to the area of general engineering. And we got slaughtered. And I think we got, from a scale 1 to 5, we got a sort of a ranking of 2, I think, if I remember correctly. And that was really bad. And the reason for that is basically because, as you heard before, our focus at that time, the research, is on commercial sort of contract research, practice research, application research. But of course, the people who actually review or assess the research are those from Russell groups doing fundamental blue sky research kind of thing. So when they look at our research, it's really not worth anything kind of thing. And so we do then sort of have to think sort of rather carefully and starting to actually realize that we need to start doing some publications. And I think when I first joined here, publication wasn't really on the agenda. Whether you publish paper or not is not something important. But nowadays, of course, publication is one of the sort of most important indicator in the assessment. And so we're starting to actually have more research council funding, have more publication. In 1996, we thought we're not going into general engineering in the assessment. We go into geography, wasn't it? Got slaughtered again. Not so bad. We got a 3A or something, sort of middle of the table ranking. And we thought, well, I mean, that doesn't really reflect what we do. And so in the 2001 exercise, we're starting to talking to our colleagues in built environment. We always thought that they are doing soft research. Is there anybody from built environment? Because they are basically doing management, so IT management and other sort of thing, and we do hard science, engineering sort of thing. But okay, because they got a very good sort of ranking, so we talked to them, tried to join force together, and it was a success, wasn't it? And then we got a ranking of 5 sort of, from that sort of exercise. So we actually continue from there. Sort of, we got 2008, we got a 6-star, and so on and so forth. But what I want to say is basically, in a sense, I think we need to adapt. Right? Apart from doing work sort of that we feel are worthwhile, sort of for the commercial thing, we also need to look at what is sort of happening in the sector itself and adapt ourselves to actually try to get the best that we can. And I'm glad to say that sort of during that time, one of the big success is that we're starting to recruit some really new and dynamic and young researchers into our research group. Trevor Cox, although he looks so old now, you wouldn't recognize him. And Bill, of course, is also another one that we recruit, and David as well. Sort of all along the year, I mean, there are also others in here, and they are the one who actually basically sort of drive the development forward. And I'm really happy. I think it's time up for me now, isn't it? And I recently heard from the university management, it's not me, the university management told me that they did an evaluation using a piece of software called SciVal, which is basically looking at the sort of citations and whatever sort of thing, publications. And they told me that we are, according to the SciVal ranking of the sort of citation or publication in the subject area of research in SAR, we are actually #1 in Europe. And I thought, where's the one that sort of, what's the ranking of the one down in the south coast? It's nobody from South Africa. And I thought, well, actually, maybe the next target we should be is that we should be #1 in the world. And so I think that hopefully is what these young people would do sort of in the next 10, 20 years. So thank you very much.
So, I don't know if anyone wants to, if you want me to open up to the audience, or if you want to have a break and chat, you probably want to just chat to people, don't you? Would that be the best use? Yes, there's a thumbs up, one thumbs up is fine. That's the vote gone. It's a chance to meet people. We're having another panel at 6:30 where we're looking at the future of acoustics, but I think we just take. If you want to go, there's some tours if you want to get across. Josh is standing up there, you're taking some tours. No, he's sitting down, he doesn't want to do it. But there's stuff outside. Up this end, there's the virtual reality stuff. Down towards the other end, it goes to research and more to sort of companies and that kind of stuff.
And there's one of the there's a camera if you want to just give a little talk saying, I remember you, yeah.
Back at 6:30 if you want to come to the next panel.
Thank you.
Hello, Andrew. I'm fine. How are you?
There was a couple of anyway, because other people sort of covering it, I just thought we don't need to get involved at this point. It'd be a great thing. Yeah, we've done catering for various people.
Presumably we'll have one from there as well.
Obviously we'll have them.
Is that the only way to get it? It's not just contributors?
Yeah, well, I think maybe you pay for it as well, but you have to...
No, what I mean is it's not just like I mean like Roger should have one.
Well, yeah. I love that you get the little pull-down table.
So a lot of them are pretty nice.
And his son used to pop into my lecture.
He was the one that just like completely baffled me on acoustics. He used to know acoustic lectures to start with. And I'm double acoustics. It just was
I haven't had anything to drink since I've got here.
Yeah. What did he say, by the way?
Because I'm, I haven't been inside for a while.
So David, who was down here, running the different project, James, who's actually outside, was a researcher who was doing the human response to the human response collaboration. Was
Look, Trevor, I responded positively to your show.
One of the wisp, isn't it? Yeah.
To the general information. So we should about futures, but I'm going to talk about the past.
You always need a lead in it.
Good to see you again. In a couple of weeks.
Traffic is terrible. No, it's still it's a 12-month job apparently. But it's coming, it's getting there. I was just describing it.
Yeah, that's all right. We took a photo together.
How are you? Am I allowed to mention the phone call you made to me when I was at home? Because they're going to let me talk in a minute.
You can mention anything.
I wanted to ask this guy. Was it true when you were talking about people who wanted to do something in music? Or is that scandalous?
No, he didn't ask me. He only said that I need to listen to classical music.
But you did, you went and bought some records.
No, I didn't.
Two people.
I've got to see this guy up here. It's a blast from the past.
Here he is, himself. I don't know what. I was just saying, you and that would be responsible.
You see the picture of you up there?
Because I can never actually stand classical music.
So is that the exact time I missed it?
Well, it's great to see you, Charles.
Family?
Yeah. I'm part of it, it's running out of time. So next time you do one of these, I'll sit around in 10 minutes.
I think you can park in the area. It's free now. You know the one just behind the...
I should park in the organised, but I don't.
The old research college.
I've parked by the museum.
Oh, in the pen. There's probably some car parking. I don't know, I wasn't at the organisation. And apologise to Hector. Really
Well,
sorry.
he obviously didn't get it. It was obviously sent because there was a name badge there.
I know
Apologise, because it was nice to chat to you.
Yeah.
It was always great.
And you'd be pleased to know that I've been written as a history for the last time. I think it's very good.
Wasn't me.
What are your lads up to now? What are your lads doing?
Well, my elder one is now a qualified doctor. He's a junior doctor.
Oh, yes.
So the ones that used to try and break out of your room when you locked them in when you had your shoulders.
The one that used to take the mickey out of me because you couldn't say the word right.
Yeah, he was the one as well. How about the language? How you order? What do you say?
Do you still prefer chicken and chips to Chinese food?
Oh, now he got a Chinese that part changed around. The younger one is decided to do PhD.
When he packed me, ended up joining back with.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought he's in medical.
And I ended up
Was it the same as mine? That's interesting. I didn't know that. I only know one of them is doing medicine. But my wife wasn't happy because she said, looking at you. What's the use? No money. But my son just wanted to do it so he can, I suppose. Well, he wasn't actually. No. I think partly because he feel that he need a higher degree. Partly it's also because he got a girlfriend who can.
Yes, I
think I'm just glad that they both sort of have something to do.
I do the
he's in Romford.
to test lab in the
probably Kent in East London, isn't it? Yeah, East London area. I don't know whether it belongs to London. Well, he actually in quite a funny program. It's called academic foundation program. Because even junior doctor has to go for so this one is actually associated with I think this is so presumably he would actually do a little bit of research. And he's working. I mean, he wants to specialize in cancer. Cancer.
And I find that fascinating.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sort of those, but he does. He do like cancer research kind of thing. And he say in order to get ahead, to do a PhD at some point. So he might also do a PhD.
When you witness somebody doing
I don't know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they earn their as long as they're sensible.
Yes.
Okay, nice to see you.
It's terrific to see you. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Made it worthwhile coming up. I'm going to. Apparently, there's wine somewhere else.
Again?
That's the East thing. Yeah, that's.
Look, the campus seems to change. It does. That's why I put that on which I found
no problem.
The university archive now got that photograph, and it's got everyone. So he could ask the university archive. I'm sure they'd be willing to. He got it.
I park over a little place when I park up on there's like 3 or 4 buildings that we own at least. I just like the way the campus is spread and evolved. It's really strange because I assume it started with Peel Park in the 1800s or whatever, and then it's moved over to the other
yes,
side.
I'm not sure the Mechanics Institute started before.
Right, there's no mug.
Right here. Yeah. As was sort of usual. And then they built the Maxwell building. Well, no, it was 50. It looks like era. Yeah. University that's right. We went
Bit your mug.
Yeah, I kind of want to see.
Yeah,
I know it's there.
Yes. We don't have it. I've talked to Dave, like they've expired.
But the building on the other side, I think it's still rent.
Yeah. Wait, the fire station?
No.
Family house.
Family.
Yeah, that's where the Vice Chancellor's office is.
Yes.
The police do dog training. I don't know, it interests me because we own so many little pieces of land in this shop. Because I feel like there was a sort of spread outwards and then they're trying to bring it all back.
Oh well, yes, I think so. Yes, I mean,
if you look where
in the 60s, the College of Advanced Technology had buildings all over the place, small bits and pieces, because it was financed by the local authority.
Yeah.
You see, so they had all bits of old schoolrooms.
Yeah.
How will it go on Meadow Road? I don't know.
Is that housing now?
It is over where the I'm not sure whether the old Meadow Road building is still there. I meant to go and look actually, but it is housing where Brindley and Newton were, and I've got a whole series of photographs of that coming down. Civil engineering before they built Salford and Brindley were in the old Meadow Road building. It was all part of it. So yeah, it was So It does. It changes continually. Is there no drink out there at all?
There's wine, but no.
There isn't any. Yeah, there isn't any water out there.
Yeah, because you've got to make sure you.
Yeah, I'm
going to go and claim some free wine. I've been promised for helping someone.
Well,
Thank you for that.
Oh, right.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
The campus. I don't know why I just have these interesting how the campus spreads because you.
Well, I mean,
you walk around
do, and
so much.
you know, if only I had time. The trouble is, I've been retired for the best part of 10 years, and you don't have time to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people say this. You know,
Yeah,
you
you're
find
retired,
yourself so busy that there has to be a driver. You know, I mean, I've been promising David Waddington that I would put all this lot down for him when he gives his lecture.
But it takes effort, doesn't it? No, I just find when you look across the road and there's all these buildings like Jewel House and whatever, I find that really interesting.
Right, yes.
Might be an
Well,
odd
of course,
thing.
they never made a big deal of
Well,
that.
Jewel House, I feel like Jewel House, that was, I've looked, I saw some of the slides actually, the 48 slide thing. Did we operate in there at some point? Because I feel like we did.
Oh, yes, sorry, I
I
showed that. Yes, if you look at Jewel House, there are, I think there are 3 doors along the front.
Yeah.
Jewel himself actually lived on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's got the label on now.
Yeah, and there's a side entrance. The one next to that is, I can't remember whether it was 48 or 47.
It said 48 on there.
Did it? 48. And in the basement,
Yes.
was the cold cellar. It actually came out under the front garden. Therefore, right next to the A6. Not the best place to put an acoustic test.
But there was an acoustic test.
Yeah, oh yes.
Do we still have that then? Do you reckon?
No. The university does, yes. I mean,
yeah, that's what I mean. Would we be able to go in for a look, or would they have changed it by
If you go across there, you probably be able to go in.
I think it's an admin place. I think everything across the road is admin.
No, it
now.
isn't. I'll tell you who's in there. The archaeologists.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
I think they are.
They never say anything. Like I assumed everything now is on either main or Allerton campus because they don't advertise any courses that would go across the road. If you look at a campus map now, like a proper one.
Well, possibly no teaching goes on, but I'm sure there's
interesting. Yeah. These buildings interest me, don't they?
2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Thank you.
Have you rewatched your advert for your interview, David? Did you not? I did try, but I think there's something wrong with the zip file, so I didn't know it was my computer. But we did quite well. Bit of media training.
Oh, right, I guess you wouldn't. I know what it is now. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to, which was probably one of the most terrifying things I can do in acoustics for a while. I'm not going to say the thing. I'll start on YouTube.
But I won't.
Did you enjoy it? One of the things like before you do a tour, you're supposed to walk around like.
Oh, right.
When we were
What's that, like out of the room?
When we were in the outside chamber, I was trying to stand
Power posing here.
Leaving it there, so sort of German chair approach. Some loud.
So are you still keeping a part-time? In fact, I've had So if you have any change very
Yeah, I'm now apparently back on.
Okay, well thank you for coming back. And so this is about the future of acoustics. And we've got a very big panel, haven't we? So what we're going to have to do is people will probably have to be quite brief but interesting with their comments. If I can put it that way, otherwise we'll be here for the rest of the night. So I'll introduce them as we go along. And first of all, I think Keith, you were going to say something before Kirill, so maybe we could start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Trevor. I've invited myself onto this panel, but then it makes it worthwhile doing the 3.5-hour car journey to get here.
I should say that you were Keith, so I was very rude of you.
All right.
Say who you are, sorry.
Keith Attenborough. What am I? Okay, I'm education.
You reach an age where you say that frequently, don't you?
Who am I? Where am I? Yes. Keith Attenborough. I'm education manager of the Institute of Acoustics, and I would have a few things to say in that connection, but I'm going to stop myself from saying them because it will not be all that complimentary to Salford at the moment. But anyway, what I'm going to talk about is research, because I'm the link into Kirill, who's going to talk about the new, wonderful, glorious UK Acoustics Network. So I've had lots of interactions with research at Salford, and if you go back far enough, you can find a gentleman called Martin West, who was a PhD student. And you know what? He came over to visit me in Leeds when I was also a PhD student to talk about sound absorbing materials. And then we can fast forward a few years to David Waddington, who was a PhD research student. And he came over to see me at the university at the time he was doing his research. So Martin West, the link was absorbing materials, and David Waddington, the link was outdoor sound propagation, because David Waddington was studying the impedance of the ground surface. And both of these things are an area where there's still work to be done. So it's quite interesting that these blasts from the past can indicate ways to the future. Now, another interaction is with a gentleman called Trevor Cox, who was the first to suggest to me that there might be something in sonic crystals. And although we weren't successful a couple of times, I think, in getting any EPSRC funding for work to do with sonic crystals, actually it was in the context of trying to use the environment for reducing noise. Subsequently, that idea from Trevor has spawned an EPSRC grant on sonic crystal noise barriers, an EPSRC grant on periodically enhanced absorbing layers and structures, and an European project called Hosanna. So wonderful things start in Salford and don't always end up with Salford's benefit. But Kirill is going to tell you how they will.
Thank you very much, Keith. So we'll pass on to... You're not even feeling guilty, are you?
No.
No. So we'll pass on to Kirill Horoshenkov, and I'll put your slide up for you, Kirill. So Kirill is from the University of Sheffield, but he's running his brand new acoustic network, just funded only a month or so ago by EPSRC.
Started early November. I'm not sure I want this microphone. Actually, I did the degree in electroacoustics and sonic engineering, but I never trust this device, so I just try to speak louder. Yeah, my name is Kirill Horoshenkov, and I'm professor of acoustics from the University of Sheffield. I worked with people in Salford University since maybe late 90s or something like that. I use also wonderful facilities they've got here. Currently, we've got two projects with the University of Salford. One is the European Union Coast network, which is represented by Olga Umnova. Don't know if she's here. I think she's probably boozing away, so we have another glass of wine. So, and also she's also on this brand new, what Keith mentioned, UK Acoustics Network, which is sponsored by PSRC. This network is a baby of the Institute of Acoustics Research Coordination Committee. Research Coordination Committee is a very strange entity in acoustics, in Institute of Acoustics. So they don't take much money, but they don't do much as well. But once every so often they come with the good ideas. And one idea was Keith Attenborough mathematics for acoustics thing. So and some time ago also we said, well, we have to do something really, because most of the time we just meet in DEFRA twice a year, and then we go to the Marquis Granby, we have a beer and a nice pie, and then go home. So at that time we decided, okay, well, maybe we should do something different. And in April last year, we ran a successful event which called Acoustics Research Challenges in 21st Century. That event was in the Royal Society in London and was attended by approximately 100 people. It was the balance of industry and academia. And one important message from this event was that acoustics research in the UK are maybe internationally leading and excellent, but it's a disparate research community. So we need to improve in terms of the talking to each other, and also in terms of the generating research impact, which is non-academic, and also to build up critical mass to face future challenges. In response to this, Research Coordination Committee started to prepare a network grant to APSRC, which was submitted in January 2017, and it was funded last summer. The grant started on the 6th of November, and it's championed by myself and Richard Craster from Imperial College. This network grant has an important aim to provide a focus for communication and also for the collaboration and widening the impact between research and academia. It consists of currently 9 special interest groups. We cover mostly the range of acoustics, from underwater acoustics to metamaterial. Olga Umnova here, she champions the physical acoustics special interest group. There is a scope to increase the number of special interest groups, and currently we're talking to colleagues in Salford about a particular topic where these groups can be spawned. I think Salford has a very important role to play in this. Historically, with 60 years of history, you produce a mainstay of graduates for acoustics, consultancies, industry, and academia. Also, the research landscape in the UK is quite complex, like the Deputy Vice Chancellor said. So we compete against other disciplines. So therefore, the Acoustics Research Network is actually here to help to achieve that critical mass, enhance the quality of the research grants, and also to make sure that we maintain the amount of money we get from the government to do it. Currently, the UK is quite healthy in terms of acoustics-related research. We've got approximately £110 million from the RC UK to fund acoustics-related research. It's nice to maintain this balance. Also, we've got approximately £80 million from the European Union, which trickle down into the UK acoustics research groups. Through Brexit, we may lose some of this money, and that will be really disastrous if we do so. Also, we can lose the money unless we maintain the critical mass. And I think the role of Salford here is pretty clear in the sense, so I think we need you to make sure that happens. So we keep the research going, keep it international leading, and build up critical mass worldwide in competition with China, United States, and Europe. Okay.
I assume this is partly a plea to get people to join the network as well, to sign up on the website.
Yeah, the website actually, this is actually, sorry, I forgot to say, yeah, website went live today. So everybody here is welcome to sign in. You can do like a member of the network, or you can just sign in to connect. In this case, you would get email with the news and updates on a regular basis.
So it's acoustics.ac.uk to get onto the network there.
Yeah, thank you very much for providing the picture on the front end.
Yes,
so
I
your wonderful employee facilities.
Yeah, I just forgotten I'd given you that picture, so I saw it flash up. So, thank you very much, Kirill. We'll move on to someone who actually was on the previous panel, so we've met Jack already. Are you talking on behalf of your company or on behalf of ANC? I don't know, maybe it's the same thing in what you're going to talk about, because you're going to talk about what consultancies might have work with Salford in the future.
What consultancies want them? Yeah, so I'm talking on behalf of the ANC.
Okay.
But my company is Apex Acoustics, so if anybody is looking for a job, please do get in touch. Thank you for the plug. So yeah, but today I'm representing the Association of Noise Consultants, and I was asked to talk about what consultancies want from Salford in the future. So you heard before, in consultancy we think we get 2 things from Salford. We get educated people and we get research. So thinking about the people first of all then. Obviously it goes without saying that we need people who understand the principles of acoustics, and we certainly get that in the industry. Principles of acoustics and how people react to sound. We often get terrible data to deal with as consultants, and we have to try and make something of it. Well, I asked a range of colleagues who recruit graduates, what else could Salford add to its fantastic world-class teaching to better prepare graduates for consultancy work? And I was surprised by the consistency of the responses. No one had anything to say that they needed to do anything better technically. but everybody wanted them to be able to write better reports.
Yes.
It's worth remembering that in consultancy, a report is generally what we produce. So we have to know about the numbers, but what we produce is written and has to be communicated. We're mostly talking to non-acousticians, people who know nothing about acoustics and don't want to know anything about acoustics. They just want to know what they have to do, and do they really have to do it. So no one underestimates the skill and experience it takes to write good reports, but the ability to communicate ideas, findings or conclusions can be more important even than the knowledge itself. So good reports are targeted at what the reader needs rather than what the writer wants to say. They're clear and accurate, brief but concise. Nobody wants unnecessary information, so I'll stop there. But if you can find ways to help students improve their writing ability, then consultancies will be very grateful. And I think there used to be an external advisory committee that's lapsed. If you wanted to resurrect that, then the ANC would be pleased to contribute to.
You might be interested to know there's an excellent part of the Institute of Acoustics diploma, which Salford no longer teaches, which talks about report writing.
Thank you.
And it's also considered on the art of being a consultant.
Yeah. So it's considered in lots of places, but it's obviously easier to talk about than it is to do.
Oh yes.
I'm sure we'd all like to be able to write better reports. So the other side of what Salford produces, the research. So again, the ANC is keen to work more closely with you in the future. There are many consultants who are keen to get involved in research. We can offer generous and valuable in-kind contributions, access to real sites, building sites and real data from real places. Our members frequently identify gaps in knowledge or guidance that requires research. And that's one of the things that I like about acoustics, is it often seems like so little is known, there's so much to do. It's often the interaction with other disciplines. So a big one at the minute, for example, is what's the interaction between acoustics and thermal comfort when you're overheating in your own home? No one really knows the answer to that. No research has been done. So there's many interesting things, I think, to do in acoustics, and hopefully we can help do sensible things together. And we've also, the ANC's recently formed a research coordination committee, so hopefully we'll get involved in the Acoustics Network as well and try to coordinate better with academics. And we can offer a great route to dissemination and impact. So, thank you very much.
So moving on, we come back to academia with Bill Davis, who many of you have been taught by and who will know, who's going to talk about the future of acoustics teaching.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Yeah, it's quite hard to talk about the future of acoustics teaching. I suppose I could and I'll say what that is in a minute. I could start, I suppose, with saying as the person who teaches principles of acoustics and psychoacoustics currently, I'm kind of quite pleased that that they graduates still remember some of that stuff by the time they meet you. Why is it hard to talk about the future of teaching? Because partly because, as the Deputy Vice Chancellor indicated right at the start of this session, higher education is a pretty turbulent place at the moment. So you're probably aware of the great political interest in student tuition fees. You may be aware of the so-called Teaching Excellence Framework, which is one of my colleagues' notes. Doesn't actually assess teaching, isn't about excellence, and is no longer a framework. Since we messed around with it, but it is taking up a hell of a lot of our time. And the fact that the cap on recruitment numbers for universities has been removed, which does mean that the government has a kind of black hole when it comes to like trying to plan how much the non-repayment of loans is going to cost them in the future, because they don't actually know how many graduates there are going to be anymore. But to some extent, the government have got what they wanted. They wanted competition between universities, and they've managed to have that. And they're encouraging new entrants into the marketplace. So you know, if you wanted to, you could go and start up a university and start running acoustics courses and compete with us. Please don't do that. Because specialist acoustics education is, well, it's special. I mean, there have been some references to that other institution on the south coast, but I think that what both we and Southampton do is really valuable. And so one of the things that I just want to see happen in the future is for both ISVR and us to continue to survive. And that's not. I was warned by my colleagues not to be pessimistic in front of you. So I'll say, well, you know, it's not entirely a given. And it's partly about critical mass, as Kirill was saying. We're in a pretty good position at the moment as far as critical mass goes. As my dean noted earlier, we have more staff than we used to, and that's generally a good thing. We now run more courses than we used to. So part of the future in teaching in acoustics is just about diversity. So we'll be starting another acoustics and music course soon. Next year we'll start a 4-year integrated MEng. We may further diversify the MSCs, and we're also talking to employers about a level 3 apprenticeship. So more courses at more levels. That's part of the future. But really, I mean, I suppose the future of teaching should concern all of us in the room, because we work in a sort of in a niche area. I was talking to Vicky earlier, just a few minutes ago, and she said, well, we all found out about this subject by accident. You know, I think most of us followed the same route. We were kind of good at maths and physics or electronics at school, like messing around with circuits or loudspeakers maybe, and got very interested in sound. And somehow we found out that you can actually study that stuff at university. So I suppose the last thing I'd say about the future of teaching in acoustics is if you know any 13 or 14-year-olds, for God's sakes, get them interested in acoustics and tell them they can study that stuff at university and go on to have a wonderful and fulfilling career in it. That's it.
So I was wondering, do you want to go next, Nick? Would that be all right? I was wondering whether Andy might be a much more logical way. So again, many of you will know Andy Morehouse, a professor here, and many of you would have been taught by him for some time, so I don't probably need to give him any more introduction. Though to hand him over to talk about ICZs, I believe.
ICZs, yes. ICZs, right, industrial collaboration zones. So I want to just start with a bit of heritage, which isn't talked about a lot for some reason, but in the late 18th century, engineers in Salford and Manchester were responsible for starting a global revolution, which is still being felt today. It's started right here, and it's had a global, immense global impact. So we've got quite a lot to live up to in a way. That's our heritage here. So how did those engineers, the engineers basically worked out how to mechanise weaving and power it with steam. Of course, that was the Industrial Revolution. So how did they do it? Well, in my view, they were creative in the true sense of the word, meaning that they, not just that they had the good ideas, but they had the practical skills to be able to get those ideas working. Right? Now that is our bedrock, if you like. When Peter Lord set up the Department of Applied Acoustics, or started acoustics research here 60 years ago, I wasn't there, not quite, but I think that kind of thinking must have been in his mind that it was important to get practical ideas working, actually working. Also, the university 10 years later, when the university got its charter, the university was known, I remember in the 80s and 90s, for being the university that worked with industry and was good at practical things. So this is very much this idea of getting ideas actually working is in our heritage. Now, we've never forgotten that in acoustics. I'm pleased to say the university as a whole is kind of reconnecting with that heritage and has introduced this ICZ strategy, which in my view is the correct strategy for Salford, that draws on our quite impressive heritage, really, when you think about it, as the home of the Industrial Revolution. Yes, and to me it's something that is, I'm not talking about specific subjects here or specific aspects of acoustics, but I'm talking about a general sort of attitude about being able to produce engineers that can get ideas actually working. And not just engineers, but that you can apply that, I'm sure, across any discipline. So for the university as a whole, to produce people that are genuinely creative in the true sense of the word, because there's nothing in my book creative about coming up with ideas that are so wacky they can never be implemented. Real creativity means that ideas get into practice, so I think it's a simple thing. We just need to be good at getting ideas working, ideas into action. Simple but not easy, I would say. And but if we can do that, then creative people that are creative in the true sense of the word, are going to be at the heart of every kind of revolution that there ever will be, I'm sure. So we're going to be up there. Thank you.
So, Nick Patel is doing just about finishing up a PhD, I would think, fairly soon here, and he's going to talk about sort of kind of the future aspirations of graduates and researchers.
Thanks, Trevor. So I'll be speaking on the aspirations of graduates and research in the future, but I'll just talk about in a general sense about this. So I guess many of the graduates who go in research, they have sort of different sort of aspirations. Some would go because they just like research, they want to do research. Some people go for academia, some want to do a sort of research job, research-oriented career. Some people would like to go into innovation, sort of start some kind of new idea, or innovate for the world. But I think as a graduate going forward, what I have had sort of a general theme which drives my sort of aspiration, or for any of the graduates going forward, what I would say is one of the themes which drove me was I always thought of research as a way to create value. Okay, so you can have value, you can create value for yourself, or for other people. That could be the monetary, or it could be some sort of research value. Basically what you're trying to do is, through research, you're trying to maximize the impact you're leaving on the world in a good way. You're trying to sort of solve some problem, some real life problem, or or just make money for yourself. So basically you try to create value for people, because I think there's, for me, from my experience as a recently sort of finishing a PhD is that there's nothing more satisfying than seeing your research being applied into the world for, you know, for some better purpose or for solving some research problem. So for people who want to go into research, that could be a sort of thought process that could be involved, that you want to create some value, whatever that kind of value is monetary or sort of research or impact. And I would absolutely hate for my thesis to be just lying in the library for 30 years and no one is looking into that. So I always try to make sure that what I'm doing is sort of in some way creating value for this world. And in the end, I would say for graduates like undergrads or master's students who want to go and look into research or be a, you know, research professional in the future, I guess there's no better place than Salford and the acoustics team if you want to do research in acoustics. And I would say don't rush before making a decision for doing a PhD or a master's or a research master's, because it's a big decision to do research. So take your time, look into the different sort of topics which appeals to you. And if you're still not sure, maybe around halfway, you can always try the sort of way of going through a research master's, because if you can do a research master, you can see that 1 year experience, and if you know you like it, you can convert it to PhD. But I would absolutely say that Salford Acoustics is a very good place for doing this research, because you will get not only the research skills but also a lot of opportunity to work on commercial or sort of real life problems. So thank you.
Last but not least is Naomi. Are you going to play saxophone tonight, by the way, the open mic session?
John's brought his, so I can borrow it.
Good, good. So we'll hear Naomi later on, hopefully, at the open mic. But before that, Naomi graduated from the MSc 2 years ago? 1 year ago? Time flies, doesn't it? Anyway, and now works at Arabs. And you're going to talk about the future of graduates in the industry.
Great.
Surprise.
It kind of was a surprise. So I was either going to be here or in Jersey, and Salford won out, and David confirmed about half an hour ago. So I'm happily on the panel here. So graduates in acoustics. For me, working in consultancy, I've just been at Arab for the last year. It kind of falls into 3 areas going forward for development of graduates in acoustics as a whole. So first of all, kind of the collaboration with universities and actually trying to use actually sound and solid research in the work that we try and do. So for example, things like master plan or the health effects of noise, that kind of thing that can really have benefit from fantastic worldwide research in the work that we do. Secondly, STEM and engagement with students and young people. So ARAP this year are hopefully going to be taking on an apprentice, which I think is a fantastic way forward to get more people into the field of acoustics and to make people aware of what we do. Thirdly, I think as particularly a graduate and sort of looking to new technologies out there is our collaboration with other teams. For example, digital or various others. So quite a lot of the work I do isn't actually, it's always revolved around acoustics, but a lot of it will be things like modelling, mapping, data handling, all of these things where sort of technical abilities, IT, and actually cool gizmos like virtual reality and that kind of things that can be brought into the work that we do in acoustics. Okay, thank you.
So we probably have about 5 minutes overrun because I'm between you and beer, potentially. But does anyone have any questions I'd like to ask? You've got the great and good behind me.
It's not so much of a question, more just a comment really. Like one of the things that I would say is probably one of the greatest assets of the department that I've found as a graduate is that I think when I graduated 14 years ago, over the last 14 years I've probably called up different members of the department to pick their brains about things on, I don't know, a number of different occasions. And I've always found everyone very, very approachable and very willing to talk, and that's the kind of thing, being able to have that expertise on hand when you need it is a huge asset. And I think that's the kind of thing that should always be publicised more, because if someone knows a when they leave Salford, it's not just, yes, they've got their degree and that's all good, but they know they've also got this amazing resource behind them the rest of the way. I think it's an incredible asset to be able to tap into.
Yeah, if you ever do send me those emails, do remind me that you're one of the graduates, because I get so many inquiries by email that it'll get lost if you don't remind me. Any other comments or questions? I think beer is beckoning. Beer is definitely beckoning. So I just want to say just a couple of words, and I think one thing I wanted to say was, let me first of all thank the panel again, please. But I'd also like to thank the team at Salford who's actually put this on. I've swanned in here and just done some talking into a microphone. I have very little to do with the organisation, particularly David, who has taken a lot of the burden on of organising this. So if we could give David a... And there were others as well, including, I think Elle's not in the room, otherwise I'll particularly pick out Elle, but there's probably some others as well from the team that I probably should. And John Harley, please, again, he's not in the room, I think, so we can thank them in absence. But thank you very much to all the team at Salford to put this on. We're going to the old pint pot now, and Phil Duncan's band is on at 8 o'clock, I believe. And I've never heard it, so this will be a first for me as well. So go and find some beer. Oh, and there's an open mic bit, which Naomi's promised to do at least an hour, solo saxophone work. So thank you very much for coming this evening, and see you in the old pint pot.
Many of us up here kicking around.